What's going on, guys? Man, owner of Tacoma here. Today we're going to be installing some CaliRaised gear. Check this out. What's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be installing some products from CaliRaised LED. This company is, in our opinion, changing the industry because they're getting rid of these extensive, long lead times for your off-road outdoor equipment and upgrades, shortening that lead time but still delivering a super quality product. A lot of their stuff, especially like their brackets and stuff, are made in-house down in their facility in Texas. So let's go ahead and get started. Today we're going to be installing some of their ditch lights, brackets, lights, switch, wiring harness, everything. After we're done with the ditch lights, we're going to be installing some of their catalytic converter shields, which are super cool, a product specifically to them. If you live in an area where catalytic converter theft is high, these are a super simple upgrade, really easy to install, that makes the theft part of stealing your catalytic converters extremely difficult, definitely enough to deter people away from doing so. The last part of this install is we're going to be installing one of their stealth bumpers, their low pro bumpers, on one of our employees' 2018 Tacoma. So this is Marcus's Tacoma. He's got our Pro Grill, our V1 painted Pro Grill as a color matched option. We're going to go ahead, get the ditch lights installed underneath his hood, get the lights on there, and then we're going to get the lift underneath the truck, get it up in the air, and then we're going to start on the bumper and catalytic converter install. Sweet pods. Got your side throwers, your spots. Second pod, brackets, great. Okay, in these kits for these ditch lights, you're going to obviously get the brackets that you're going to use the existing bolts for the hood to install these. You're going to get your wiring harness, which we end up actually taking off this just punch switch, and we're going to solder in and install this actual switch that'll go into his dash that says ditch lights, which I can show you this real quick. It'll light up and everything. Super nice switch. Then we have their pods. Some of these pods are made in China, which is fine because sometimes you don't need a certain level of quality for people that are just like weekend warriors and whatnot. And surprisingly, a lot of the name brand stuff is also made in China. So these are a fantastic option. Let's go ahead. We're gonna go ahead and get the brackets out. Brackets. We got hardware. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, so I assembled the ditch lights brackets. The curved part kind of comes out so that it's more low profile. Bolt, lock, washer, nut, and the same thing here. You got your bolt, washer, lock, nut, washer, and then these from the ditch lights are going to be mounted just like this. And the reason we have this throw, this is going to give you some distance and some coverage out in front, and then this is going to cover like the side part of the vehicle. So you can face these directly out in front of the vehicle. I personally like to offset them just slightly, so you do get an throw off to the side along with that beam up front. Because we're doing the grill or the bumper in the front with the light bar, just gives me even more of an incentive to kind of angle these out, because the light bar in the bumper is going to be putting out that throw for the front. What we're going to do is we're going to take the bracket, we're actually going to light the mount to it, or mount the light to the bracket first. This has a D on it, so this is going to be the driver's side. What you do is you're going to come under here, What we like to do is we'll actually trace out the top part of this with some sort of marker so that you know the exact position that you took it off on. So we'll undo one, we'll place this underneath, tighten them up just slightly, realign where it should have been lined up, and then tighten everything up, and it'll have the light sitting up just above the hood. I'm gonna have Randy get these installed while I prep some other stuff.
Okay. So we're gonna spin this nut off, get these lights installed to the bracket, and after that's done, we'll be putting the whole setup onto the truck. So we got these mounted, so now we're gonna put these on the truck, and then we'll tighten these down afterwards. Grab my tool. Obviously gonna set pieces here real quick.
Mark the hood, bro. I didn't know they mounted the hood like that. I didn't know they mounted the hood right.
There's a passenger and a driver, and they're both labeled.
Make sure you got the right one.
Yes, sir. I thought I did, but I wasn't. So here I am.
They can't hear me talk, so well, maybe a little bit. But yeah, you can feel free to repeat. So.
Cool. Here we are. We got the passenger side all mounted up. Make sure everything's aligned. And you'll for sure want to get these bolts hand started. Then you can run them down. And you can play with alignment of the hood. Just like that, we got the brackets and the lights installed. Now we're gonna close the hood and check for fitment, and then tighten the lights down. Run these down. And the reason why we put the lights on the brackets first is trying to fish that nut onto the bolt after the bracket's installed might be a lot harder than pre-installing it, and so that's the reason why we install the lights to the brackets first. And we'll snug those down on both sides and at the position that we'd want. These having the lenses on the side is the reason why I'm setting these more straight, just because there's these, and then after we do that, we'll kind of adjust the level of the actual pods themselves. And after we do that, we'll just need to tighten them down with the Allen key. So here we got the wiring harness for the ditch lights, which we're probably going to get rid of this tacky light switch and installing a switch that will go in the factory location. So yeah, we'll get cracking away at that. Look at this really quick, see what I want to do. Okay, so we're gonna get rid of this tacky switch, and we're gonna be cutting that off and replacing this with this. So we got those ends stripped. Now we'll be stripping these. So we got those ends stripped, and now we'll be splicing these to the light harness. So we'll be doing black as ground, and then we have white as power. So that will be green to the white. And we're going to be hooking this blue wire up to these two red wires, allowing the switch to be eliminated once it's installed. Solder heat shrink connections, which are super strong. And after we get those on, we'll either put some heat shrink over the top and or some electrical tape. And then we'll be using a torch to get it to seal up and melt the solder. Try not to get too close so we don't melt the wire, just trying to melt the solder. Sweet, so we got all of our connections connected with the good solder, and then now we're just gonna wrap all this up with some electrical tape. Just like that. And now we're gonna be running all of our wiring. And now we're trying to get this through the grommet, through the firewall, up to where the switch will go. And how we'll be doing that is we'll be putting a hole in this grommet and then running the wire through. I'm gonna be using my knife. When you guys are doing this, you gotta be extremely careful so you're not cutting into the OEM harness. We got the harness poked through. So we got the harness through, and what we'll do is we're gonna be, it's coming through down here. There is a rubber grommet way up there that's allowing a ton of like the ECU and like body module harnesses to come through the firewall. And so that's the similar spot that we poke through for our light harness. And doing that allows us to be right here. And what we'll do is we'll tuck this wiring up here, and we'll be installing that like OEM style switch right in this blank, which will allow our client to use his lights in the factory slot instead of using that tacky switch that came with. We're gonna be running all of our ditch light wiring back over to the other side. What we'll do is we're gonna be routing this guy down through here. What I usually do is I'll zip tie these up, so I'll be doing that now. I'm gonna pull this clip out. We're gonna pull this little bezel piece back and try to get our wiring down below. just like that. Don't forget to put your clip back in. And that's gonna run right through there. And then we're just gonna zip tie the harness up throughout here. And using some longer zip ties will help you fish it back through. So I always use something a little bit longer just to help me get it ran back. What we'll do is we'll start tucking it up along this other harness. That's OEM, just to help clean it up a little bit.
Out by the ramp. This is your 11 plus grinder. And the other one is a 35 line. You want to try to get, push forward as much as possible. But you also have SPT. Just have a look at it and see what the specs come up with. Here, I'll stop this.
Grab a stool so I can get up there. Cool, so we got that side all buttoned up. This is the reason why I use the longer zip tie, so I'm able to fish the tail end back around. And then there we go, just like that. And that takes care of that. We're gonna snip off the excess. And what we're gonna do over here is we're gonna make sure we tuck all this wiring up. So we're probably gonna pull this guy all the way through and tuck that up under the dash. Then we're gonna mount our relay and we're gonna hook up our battery positive and our ground. And then what I'll be doing on this side is I'll be cutting this off and shortening it just so then I don't have to bunch it up. That's just gonna be the cleaner way of install. But for our other clients and or for the do-it-yourself people, you guys can just bundle this up and tuck it up in the truck. But just for this install, I'll be modifying this harness and shortening it just to make it look a little bit nicer. And there's a bracket right here that I removed the 10 mil out of to mount a relay. The relay's mounted there. And now what we'll do is we'll kind of route this where it's the cleanest to our battery. And usually what I'll do is I'll hook this up, kind of tuck everything up. I'll pull the fuse out just in case when we do cut and splice that we're not touching live wires onto the truck where it can cause a short. ground, I'm gonna go to that guy. Cool. Now I'm doing the same with this other ditch light harness, I'm running it back down. And on these zip ties, we'll cut it as close as we can so it doesn't become a razor blade. I'll do, so I'll be cutting this harness right about there. Here is the end. I cut this out the harness just so that I don't have to wrap this side up. We were able to tuck up this side just because most of the length was taken up from running it back over to that side. So we're just gonna cut probably that far on there. And we're just gonna pull this back, peel that off, and we're gonna splice it back onto here, make it super short, just so it goes right there so it can tuck up real nice. And then after that, we'll be tucking up the harness under the dash, and then we'll be connecting the factory style switch to that end and then putting it in the dash, and then that will take care of the ditch light install. Here we are, guys. We got all the under the hood stuff all dialed, grab tools, remove that, reinstall the fuse, and then we'll be hopping in the truck, going underneath the dash, and then routing all that wiring and then hooking up his switch. So we were able to get this popped out. I'm gonna remove that. That's where that OEM switch will go, is in that blank. So now what we have to do is route that guy back up. So we got that ran through. Now we're gonna hook that switch up. Then we'll zip tie all the rest of the harness up and out of the way. All right, guys, we got that switch right here. And what we'll do now is on some of these, in the dash, we'll have little tabs that hold in the factory blank. On this guy, we won't need to modify it, but all you need to do is, if you do need, you'll grab a Dremel tool like this, and you'll basically take the little nubs off, but we don't have to do that on this truck. So now it's just hooking it up. That works. We'll pull the harness back through. And there's the install. On, off, and that's it. And then down here, this is all of what's left of that harness. And what I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna tuck it up as cleanly as possible and tuck it way up there out of the way of all the pedals.